Hello and welcome back to episode number 41 of the Why Carbs Won't Make You Fat podcast. I know that because I've actually published the last one I was supposed to publish with some technical dramas because it just wouldn't upload. I also nearly published the wrong one.
Right.
So because I nearly published the wrong one and I'd done the work on writing it all out, I then scheduled two. So I'm actually one podcast ahead of the game.
Oh, nice.
It never happens. Won't be maintained, guys. Don't expect this level of diligence long term. But here we are. Josh is back. How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been busy. Quite a lot of sessions. We had a rotation in the program this last week, and so coaching sessions on different days. And like Wednesday, you had pull-ups, which is the bane of quite a lot of the members I work with. But there were some good variations, like one where you have a barbell in a rack and then you're facing out, you're supported by your feet, and then just to get the idea or the feel at least for handling your own body weight.
Yeah.
And because there are other times where we've used bands across the rig and the bands are fine, but they kind of give you a false sense of like achievement, or I'm getting somewhere, and then you like lower the height of the J hook, or you take one band away and then it goes to pot. Whereas this one, you've got the support of your feet, and then as you get stronger, you can take one leg off, and then you can suspend both feet on a bench out in front of you. So you're just basically doing everything without your legs. And I think that particularly the beginning of that concentric portion of the pull-up is the hardest thing for beginners and stuff like that. So if there's a way of scaling or regressing it back to that and get them more comfortable with it, then that's a useful tool, at least.
Yeah, we've been doing like loads of TRX rows with our guys. That means like eccentric work, so controlling the lowering phase, so almost like get yourself up to the bar. However, even if you need to stand on a box, like really slowly lower yourself down, because then that builds good like patterning. So much of like spin up or a pull up is abs. I think if you rely too much, I don't mind the band in the right context, but if you rely too much on the band, you never really develop the core strength to do it. If you get like really good at doing chin-ups, you don't have to get an ab pump from it. If you do a lot of work, especially like when you're getting volume of it in and stuff. I haven't done it for years, but it does. Yeah, you'd be amazed how much like core it gets. I used to do when I lived on my own like years ago, there was like, you can get this, you can probably still find it online, like there's this 100 press up program, which is like basically to get you to 100 press ups. I never made it to the end of it. Well, I made it to the end of it a number of times, but never got to 100 press ups. And so this is in a row, right? This is not like I can do 100 press ups, I'll break them down, right? But in a row is challenging. That used to really blow up your abs, because it used to be, obviously it's like progressive overload, but when you've got like your top set is like 50 to 60 to 75 press ups, that gets spicy. And then there's a pin up version of that as well.
Right.
It's not to 100 mental, but again, similarly, we're doing like all the bits in the program, just abs blow up from it. Good. It's amazing as well, like how much confidence people build in it with like those regressions. They want to go from A to B immediately. So the minute I'm like, God, I think I'm a little way away from a muscle up. But one of the things I've got is just a chest to bar isometric hold. So just put a bar in a rack, be out on the deck, similar to what you're doing with your guys, and just hold. Pitch shoulders about 30 seconds. They are horrible. I hate them. Like I hate them to the degree that I was like, I don't want to do this, but I want to do a muscle up. So that's like
the way to do it.
But,
I had a similar thing when I was learning how to do a strict ring muscle up as well.
You
got the top hold where you have your elbows extended, but doing a controlled eccentric on the way down, so you're lowering yourself into the dip, and then kind of almost curling the rings round to your chest, and then lowering yourself down on that portion, still maintaining a full grip. I kind of like them and also dislike them at the same time, but it's mainly because they just rip the shit out of the heel of your palm if you haven't got some decent grips to go along with it. It's a good way of doing them.
I finally managed. I think, well, I wouldn't say I've got them nailed, but I can do a decent set of toes to bar kipping.
Nice.
I've been able to do toes to bar for a long time, but just not kipping. So I think I've finally managed to get multiple sets of reps put together. So that's one step further along the line. And it's skipping chin up next, and then just toes to muscle up is the next one.
Yeah,
got to be patient. Like, yeah, one of the guys was like, "Oh wow, that looks really that's big improvement from when I last saw you, Timbo." And then said James, the coach, who was like, "What has he done to get to there?" And James like, "He's just fucking practiced." Like, he's done it every week, really diligently, and just accepted being shit at it for a long time, and still not. I would like them to be more aesthetically pleasing, but okay.
Welcome.
Right, we're going to have a new feature, guys and girls of the podcast world. I know you like. I think I know that you like us having a rant. No, it's normally me, in fairness. Josh is less ranty than me. But so what? Everyone likes a good rant. I'm going to call the feature "What's Grinding Our Gears." If you've ever watched Family Guy, that's where I got that phrase from.
Peter Griffin.
So have you got anything that springs to mind, Josh, or do you want me to go in for it?
I shared it with you today, but it was a chap called let me get the handle. I am Flesh God on Instagram, and because of the blessed algorithm, he came up on my For You page, and I just clicked on it and then went through his feed a little bit, and he is added to the long list of people who's eating fermented raw meat online and keeping it in mason jars, and whether it's beef, organ, meat, chicken, absolutely anything. He'll put it in a jar, he'll ferment it, he'll come back to it a week later after it's gone off, and then he'll eat it in front of the camera. And he looks awful. He really does. He does not look well. And it's I know the most outrageous things get the most number of views and clicks and stuff, and it goes along with the people shouting at you on Instagram or TikTok with their chopping board, or they've got their shirt off in a supermarket, and it just really pisses me off. There's a and this is like another one which is more training related. I can't remember his name, but he's quite young and he's got like the long dark broccoli haircut, and he's quite often got aviators on, and he'll just launch into his reel of just shouting at you about this particular person doing an exercise poorly, and then it comes to him demonstrating how to do, say, a barbell row, and saying how he's built his physique, and he's rowing 60 kilos, and he's comparing it to someone who's doing rows with, say, 140, and they might be doing a little bit of cheat reps, but they're still fairly clean. And like, dude, stop it.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. I'd say those are my main ones. It's just I was talking to Jody Rose at the gym just now, and there's another bloke who's from the north of the UK, Coach Cam Carnivore or something like that is his handle, ginger bloke, and he's a carnivore diet advocate. He'll give you tips as to what to make if you're cooking from home.
Tips on how scurvy.
Yeah, and also how to remain carnivore if you're dining out as well. And he'll always do these faces to camera like, yeah, this is the shit. And
pulling a smug face and points.
Pulling a smug face, and he'll make this is my carnivore pizza, and he makes the base with either egg or ground up cooked chicken breast, and then emulsifies it with egg and bakes it or something like that, and then we'll put beef and other bits and pieces on top, and then use raw egg yolk as a bechamel sauce or something like that. Or he might make us cheese sauce, because he'll have a shitload of saturated fat on his plate. But again,
cavemen ate a lot of pizza as well, right?
Yeah, it's 100% Paleolithic and accuracy on that.
I deliberately laughed there, guys, in case you thought I was being serious.
No.
There's so many extra things that have gone on what grinds my gears since you've been talking. This is amazing. This could be the whole pod.
This could be the whole pod. Yeah. And it's like the Paul Saladino thing, and having him having that hill to die on, and now even he's changed his mind on it and incorporating carbohydrates in the form of fruit and honey back into his diet because he was pre-diabetic, just by following a carnivore-based diet. And this guy Cam, I think, is well on the way to that because he posts his blood work every now and then because he'll get a load of people commenting saying, show us your blood, show us your blood. And so he got a panel done, and his LDL's through the roof, which is to be expected. And I think if I haven't seen his feed recently, it's getting to the point where he's going to start incorporating carbs again, or at least some form of like honey or maple syrup or something like that on his chopping board. But yeah, it's the extremes of either end of the scale, whether it's veganism or carnivore, that or Eddie Abu as well.
Yeah, I mean,
he's kind of gone a bit quiet recently.
Has a little bit. I think people have like realised that he's consciously like, I know this is bullshit. I'm going to post about it because all the coaches are going to argue with me. And it's nuts. And like, I mean, hopefully the coaches have figured that out and stopped talking about him, and that might then have killed off the bit in the algorithm with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But gradually more sense is coming through because there's guys like Ben Carpenter, Luke Hanna, Joey Muniz, I think his name is, an American bloke, and the Alan Arrogans, Alan Bacons, and Aronofsky. Was it Aronofsky? No,
Dr. Spencer Nadolsky.
Nadolsky, that was it.
Nadolsky,
yeah. Those guys are kind of becoming more prominent on that platform, which is good.
Interestingly, when I listened to a guy called Luca Hocevar's podcast, he's a coach. He's got a really cool gym that he runs. But he had on his podcast, he had Dr. Alan Bacon talking about Ozempic, which was
all right.
And actually, very similar stuff. Interesting, like slightly different takes on those. So last week I was talking about the guy who did that experiment himself. Had like slightly different takes on it, but like all of the core bits were the same. So takeaways were the same. He just had like slightly different takes on the hunger bits and whether people could or couldn't stay on it like long term. But like, I mean, I've watched a lot of his like short, like in shitty marketing terms, short form content like on Instagram and stuff, which is good. But actually on Lucas' podcast, because he could like talk, I was like, shit, this guy's fucking smart. Because he starts explaining concepts and they're really, really clear, very simple, but like you just, there's a lot of authority because he does know what he's talking about. I was like, yeah, shit, this guy is fucking smart.
And he does it as well, which is a good thing.
And he's a coach, so I want to listen to more of that. As you were going on the fermented meat guy, I had so many things that were like going through my brain about just bullshit. There is so much crap out there, guys. And it does seep in somehow. So one of the things on my list is what's grinding my gears. Sugar is grinding my gears. It always grinds my gears. Now, pretty much literally everybody I talk to, even if they're doing well with their nutrition, like, but I'm having too much sugar. I'm like, what's the goal? Fat loss. Right. Okay. Are we making fat loss progress? Yes. So why is sugar the problem? Well, I'm having too much of it. Why? And it's like, it has been demonized a lot. Now, don't get me wrong. If your dentist wants you to cut down your sugar, let's do that, because it's nice to have a good set of teeth. That's going to help with eating, right? And help with how you look, perhaps, if you're that way inclined. Also, like, just for puns, right? I am actually very supportive of the sugar tax on soft drinks. I think Jamie Oliver got that in pretty much. I think that's how it came to notoriety. And I watched a lot of that stuff he was doing on the telly at the moment, and I completely agree with where he's coming from, because he's out in, like, I think he went to Brazil or somewhere, South America at one point, where they don't have a lot of access to water, and all of these poor kids were absolutely wrecked. And they were
I remember that show.
Yeah, do you remember they were all?
Yeah, and there was like a barge in the middle of the river, which was a store that sold all these soft drinks and confectionery.
Yeah, so they're basically, the water wasn't really that drinkable for these people, and so then the kids were drinking sugary soft drinks because that's what they had access to. and then they taste great, so they keep drinking them. And literally, I think like the percentage of kids having full teeth extractions was mental. It was so sad to watch. And then he came back to the UK, and there was quite a high percentage of that happening in the UK, not to the same degree. I think he did, like, they did a thing to illustrate a point about where it might go, right? It's TV after all.
Yeah.
But you know, they were talking to these dentists, and there's lots of kids having to have teeth extractions, which really shouldn't be happening, right? Yeah. So that is a great reason, and I still fully support the sugar tax, because there's no reason why. Because what happened? All the soft drinks companies went, "Fuck, we don't want to like absorb that. We don't want our customers to stop buying our products," and they made things like Fanta go from 120 calories a can to 20 overnight, and it doesn't taste any different. They put sweetener in it. Like, they figured out Coke Zero, which I think is the best flavored diet soft drink there is, which are all 0 calorie. People kick off about sweeteners. They don't seem to make any fucking difference to your health, guys. It's all scaremongering, really. Like, loads of things make difference to your health. You can never prove things with science, but they don't seem to be bad in the doses that you would consume them.
No.
Right. So, outside of that, sugar can't make you fat without a calorie surplus, right? It does make it, for some people, easier to get into a calorie surplus, because sugar makes things tasty, right? I was having a conversation with someone today, and they were at one of the classes we did last night. And actually, last night's class was ridiculous. It was tough, right? A lot of it comes down to what weights you select, but also just like the combination of people doing the class were like, I'd say 2/3 of them were ones that really push. Well, maybe like 50% were ones that really push. Sorry, guys, cut out a little bit there, so I'll repeat what I've said if I can't make it work in the edit. Well, yeah, we had one of the people was in the class last night, and it was one where everyone was like really pushing. Like, about 50% of the class are the type of people that push themselves really hard. And I think just because of the vibe, they like dragged everyone else along with them. I was looking around the room, and people who wouldn't normally push that hard were like ending themselves. It was
nice.
The fittest person there then, because it was like, it's one of these workouts where you start with, so it's 40 reps of everything, then it's 30, 20, 10. And Ian is the fittest guy at our gym. Got to, including the coaches, no one will mind saying that. He got to finish the 20. He looked at the clock. He's like, "Nah, I won't make it." I was like, "I think you can make it, bro." Absolutely, I think he had like 4 seconds left on the clock, and he absolutely ended himself on the last 10 calories on the ski erg. The point that he was then like legitimately laying on the floor, puffing about, which like I've seen him do competitively. Right, not having with this.
The guy was ending himself.
Okay, right. So, anyway, like, it's cut out again, guys. Long story short, because I'm not going to repeat the story. Everyone was pushing really hard, and one of the people was like struggling a bit, to the point where I was like, "Are you sure you're all right?" And then we did another thing, and I was like, "Everyone go and stand over here," and they were like, just like Space Cadet, and they're not normally a Space Cadet. I was like, "Do you want some Mao or Haribo or something? A bit better." And they're like, "Yeah, I didn't really. Yeah, I did. I went running earlier. I didn't really put any food back and stuff." But I was talking to them today, actually, and then they're talking a lot about like body image and stuff. And I was like, "Well, I just feel better if I lost a couple of kg." And I was like, "Well, what?" It's quite a cliche coaching question, but it does help, actually. I was like, "Well, how is life different in 2 kg time?" And she's like, "Good question. I don't really know." And then she started talking about like body image and how she sees like other people. And then she's like, and then I have these days where I'm not that hungry sometimes. But then I also think like, I don't want to eat bad foods, and I don't want to eat sugar because that's bad for me. And I'm like, right, here we go. But then she's like, equally, I see like people who get it right here, like really fuel themselves and like push themselves, and I want to do that. I was like, right, so it's as simple as this. Let's get in our fruit and veg. Let's try and have some protein at each meal, so that we're not, because then she had like a bit where she was quite hungry after breakfast. So I was like, well, there's no protein in breakfast. Let's get that up.
Yeah.
But please don't lean into this narrative that food is bad. Like, there is no such thing as a bad food. Like, if I would say there was one bad food in the world, I'd have to say, like, technically it's alcohol. It's toxin. It's not good for you. It is fun, right? I'm not going to say I don't drink. I've drunk loads in the past. I don't drink as much as I used to. It's not because it's just because life is different now. I'm not partying because I'm not single anymore, right? To be honest about it. But like, if you eat your fruits and vegetables, if you've got your protein under control, you're getting nourished. If that base is covered, any food that you eat gets broken down into its simplest possible constituents. So, like a cube of sugar, we've said this so many times, a cube of sugar gets broken down into glucose. So does a potato, right? Or so does a banana, or so does a carrot. Like, obviously, bananas and carrots have got more nourishment in them, more vitamins and minerals. But if you're getting those in, like, the body doesn't know any fucking different. So, like, please stop. And it's not the person's fault, right? Because there's so much shit everywhere, in the media, TV, magazines, fucking everywhere. Low sugar this, low sugar. It's like, come on, guys, it's calories. Like, the devil is always in the dose, but it's too simple, so it's not that marketable. It's like, if you're just eating raw fermented meat, you're not eating much because it's going to taste like crap. Like, whatever this place, even if they do it, they're not doing it. They're eating it and throwing up off the camera, right? But yeah, it's I mean, that's not even the end of a rant. I don't know what my point was there, but like, what my point is, what I really hate is, like, there's some clear evidence. This person's 19. They really want to, like, push on, and like, most people in the gym are a bit older. They've got so much potential and they will fulfill it. But that narrative is stuck in the head somewhere with someone who's pretty much a blank canvas. Of like, I don't want to eat crap food. It's like, no food is crap in the right context.
I remember that lady you mentioned some time ago on the podcast, who had bought in, or at least heard something about the Zoe thing, and like, too much protein is making you fat, and there was nothing you could really do to sway her on that one. No,
it was lost. I mean, I've definitely swayed this person.
Did you? Good.
Contact time with them and stuff. So I know this person is just going away to do the right thing, right? Which is great. But I will still repeat the narrative of, like, if you've done a 6K run and all you can eat is a bowl of Cocoa Pops, please eat that before you come and bury yourself in 45 minutes of high intensity cardio. So start glazing over and not listening to me because you can't see straight. Like, that's the reality of what was happening, because there's not enough fuel in the tank. You don't get that at Barry's boot camp. Anyway, we like our guys to push. It's safe to say. It's not for everyone at our place, but it's for the right people. So, okay. Anything else, Josh? Anything else grinding your gears today?
The more is better approach. So particularly for newbies, but also ones that have been at it for quite a while, and probably just because it's part of their routine, is if I'm not killing myself in a session, coming out pissing with sweat, then I haven't done anything. And if I don't get all my sessions in during the week, or some semblance of that, then it's a write-off, really. And it's not giving yourself enough time to recover in between. So if people are going ham on 3 high-intensity cardio sessions a week, and then they're also trying to push and progress in a strength-based class as well, they're gonna really struggle with that if they're not nourishing themselves appropriately, or getting a good amount of sleep, and all those kinds of things. And I know from personal experience, just because of how life has changed in the last year or two, is like, at a minimum, I'll get 3 sessions in, most maybe 5, but that's once in a blue moon. On average, maybe 4, but that 4 will consist of like 3 strength, and then there'll be some bike intervals or something like that on a day where I'm like, don't necessarily want to lift or anything like that, or it could be just 100 kettlebell swings, something like that, and that's sufficient to get a stimulus. Because having more and more conversations about like rep ranges and things like that with clients, and is more better or is less better and doing more weight. And like, yes, everything is good, but your body really doesn't care what movement you're doing because it's just experiencing mechanical tension. And you can play around with that with the intensity, whether you're using tempo, pauses, or a moderate to heavy load, light to moderate load, or a heavier load, and things like that. And that's the best way, the more nuanced way of doing it, rather than it's this or this.
Yeah, as well. Like with that weight perspective as well. Like, I mean, I've done a lot of strongman where it is just move the weight, but there are still some fundamentals that, and like technique is, provided you're not doing a god awful job of it, it's not necessarily a safety thing. Technique, it's an efficiency thing. So you will be able to lift a maximal weight more often with efficient technique on a good platform. I had the guys today this morning doing single arm landmine row. This guy, I bought some new landmine attachments, so I just use them. They'll go out of my favor for a bit and they'll come back in again. But and primarily I want that to be like, especially with a lot of the guys, deadlift tends to fall down technique wise with having a nice upper back positioning, have a nice extension in that. And so one of the girls is fucking strong, and she can move the weight on the single arm row, but she can't maintain the position I want her to. And it's not that she's in a dangerous position, but I want it to carry over to her having a flat upper back when she deadlifts.
Right.
That's where her form breaks down. So I'm like, mate, you can move that weight easily the way you're moving it. I just don't want you to move it that way. About maintaining the position with a weight. And you can't maintain the position with that weight. It's not that you're not strong enough to get it from waist high to shoulder high, but we're not doing a rotation and shrug. We're doing a different movement. Cool. Okay, got it. Back down. Like, she's had enough time with us now that she's like fully into it and wants to get better, as well as like the strength will come anyway. Well, it's already there, to be honest. So, and I think, like, it's always better to have progressive overload, but I think training wise as well, know what the focus is. So like you were saying, like not every day has to be a max effort day. I'm doing quite a bit of stuff at the minute just to try and get better at not being in zone 5 all the time when I do something. I can maintain that quite well for 5 to 10 minutes maybe, and then I'm dead, understandably, because I spent my time at max heart rate and I blow up. Whereas like Ian, our fitness guy, is probably in zone 3 all of the time. Going faster than me. But he can do that because he's in zone 3, not zone 5, right? He's like, I can spend about 30 seconds in zone 5. I don't know how you weirdos are there. I was like, whatever. Right. I was like, yeah. But I guess like my history of sport is playing cricket and running 15 yards at a time, which I'm very used to being like short, sharp, stop, go. Whereas he's like done ultra marathons, triathlon. He's very much like into longer distance cardio stuff. So like, yeah, just history of training. But again, like, so I'm spending more time doing like, inverted commas, more zone 2, like boring stuff, but it is compounding. But it's not that enjoyable for me in terms of it being stimulating.
No.
But I know what the purpose is. Like another example is like James's coach, Tristan, does with a lot of his guys so you've got the air bike, and then you've got to lay your chest down on it, stand behind it, lay your chest down,
and then just do the arm,
but keep your chest like parallel to the ground, so the assault bike's actually above your head,
and then you get
all rear shoulder, but with no hip rock and roll.
Oh right, okay.
Literally all arms. So the first time I did it with a bit of hip rock and roll, like unintentionally. And then James was like, good job, mate. That's like only 20 calories away from me. And he's like, it's good 20 to 25 kilos heavier than me, so it shouldn't be. And I was like, something's not, like, it's not right there. So the next time I did it, I was like probably 40 calories less over the rounds that I did. It was like phenomenal. And I didn't get out of, I think I got into zone 2, like for about 5% of the workout. Literally like, so like the very, maybe like, literally, I think I peaked at 120 heart rate. It was so muscular. It was like literally not cardiovascular in any way.
Just anaerobic.
But again, it's like, that's to be like doing loads of swinging from bars and stuff, you need a bit more upper body endurance. So it's literally targeting those small muscles.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks a bit stupid. It looks like, because a lot of the guys when we first showed them, like, oh, it's just fucking Instagram stupid. And we're like, they're like, oh, well, you know, why don't you just do it on the ski erg? I was like, this is not the same movement as a ski erg, guys. You try it and you tell me it's the same movement. Yeah, so again, like specificity, know why you're doing a thing. And then, like, so, secondly, we're back to nutrition and sugar. Why are you taking it out? What is it doing? Why is it bad? And it's bad in inverted commas if it makes you eat too many calories for your goal. Over time will cause excess fat, which over time will make you sick and unhealthy if you don't keep that in check. If you're not gaining excess fat, like Michael Phelps is an example I used with the lady this morning. I was like, he's renowned for having this inverted commas shit diet, but he was on, like, I don't know, he's probably up to like what the strong men eat, like 6,000 calories when he was fully training. That's amazing to eat. It really is, like, it's horrible. Like, everyone thinks, oh, like chicken, rice, and broccoli for 6,000 calories. I don't think is actually possible. No. Personally, maybe it is. I don't know. It's sadist to do that for more than a week.
Deep fried, maybe.
Yeah, literally. But then, yeah, that changes the picture, right? So, yeah, which is then you can have a side of broccoli and go and get a KFC. Yeah. But look, oh, he just eats junk food. Look at him. He's ripped. He's ripped because he spends fucking 7 hours in the pool a day, and he's a genetic freak as well, like in the nicest possible way. Yeah. So, like, yeah, context and all that.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I guess brings me on. We started to touch a little bit about training, so I'll stop the grinding our gears bit now. Do the bit I was going to do last week. So, a question I got from one of my clients actually, which sort of obviously answered with her already, but is it possible to train so is it on the subject of overtraining? If you train too hard in inverted commas and push really hard, the theory becomes that is really stressful, and stress causes fat gain. So training too hard makes you fat.
Okay.
Let that sink in for a moment. Training too hard makes you fat. So what is the mechanism from training too hard that leads to fat gain? And the supposition, which is wrong, is that stress causes you to gain fat. Your cortisol rises and it magics fat out of somewhere. Right? That's what the theory that is being proposed is. Okay. So fundamental rule of physics is that you can't generate energy from nowhere. Yep. If you could, space travel would be licked. No one would need to pay any electric bills. No. There would be no global warming because we wouldn't be burning fossil fuels. Like, you have, like, energy has a cost of generation. Also, energy is this closed system in sort of scientific terms. So what comes in must go out or be stored somewhere. So in order to gain body fat, you must ingest more fuel than you burn. Right. So what happens if you train too hard and you gain fat is that training too hard has caused you to put too much energy in. But the training bit is taking energy out. So the energy in can only come from food. So what is happening is you're slamming yourself in training to the point that you're not really that conscious of the amount of food you're eating, and you're just eating because you feel knackered in high volumes, which is causing you to gain body fat. When we understand that, we know that we can then appreciate that it isn't actually the act of training really hard that is leading to fat gain. It's the stress result of that leading to, in inverted commas, comfort eating, or just unaccounted for eating. Yeah.
Shoveling it in.
Yeah. Which is natural and normal. So, like, quite often a lot of people find when they start exercising, their appetite really ramps up big. And if they're not, and then they're like, I started exercising and I gained all this weight. And then there's like, you know, they get told it's muscle for a little bit. And then they're like, no, I'm getting tubby. I can see it. Especially if they've just joined, you know, like a boot camp and are doing pink dumbbells and things, they're probably not gaining that much muscle, like, afraid to rain on your parade. So again, we need to, like, if it's not, it all comes down to this energy balancing, which is really boring. But when we understand these fundamentals, it like filters out all of this bullshit. So yeah, that's how it works basically. Touched on it before as well, like with training, like, yeah, it's a stressor if you're then like burning the candle at both ends by under eating a little bit, not going to bed when maybe you should, drinking heavily. That bit, the lack of sleep, the undernourishment will lead to your performance tanking much sooner than just training really hard. Because if you're training really hard and putting back in the fuel that you're burning, maybe a little bit more, you're quite unlikely to then physically overtrain. So just to reiterate, I've said that a few weeks running, but it's kind of what I'm seeing a lot of at the minute.
Yeah. There's a client I've mentioned before who does quite a lot of marathons and things.
Yeah.
And then does probably about, well, it kind of comes to terms now that she needs to do less. Because there was a bursa in her hip, a hairline fracture on the shin, and now there's something going on with both knees. And like the ankle thing's sorted, the bursa is sorted, and now we just got these knee problems to figure out. And then it's booked into another marathon in maybe 3 months' time or something like that. And it's I think it's also very competitive, but also tied up with identity of being a marathon runner or whatever title you want to give yourself. But if that's your sole profession of being a marathon runner, then fine. But if you're someone who also has a high functioning job where you're quite often commuting to a big city, and then you're also having to travel for that job, and you might not be able to get these sessions in, then you need to give yourself a little bit of respite and not be so hard on yourself, and try and treat it more as an enjoyable hobby or a vocation. You can sure be competitive with it, absolutely, but it's because you're wanting to hold yourself to a particular standard, but it's giving you space to like treat yourself correctly so you can hopefully perform your best on the day, because there's been a couple of instances where there was either a change to the training regimen or a different routine, or sleep was shit, food was shit, or anything under that possible variables, and it's like this contributed to not getting the best time or not being in the top group that finished that particular race, and you end up despondent and thinking, I'll just go back to what I was doing before. But it's still perpetuating something that really needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and I think just to put some light and shade around what I said around overtraining, just thinking about, as you talked about it, endurance athletes are especially at risk of the burning the candle at both ends thing.
Yeah,
it becomes increasingly harder to put the fuel back in. So if you go I used to think this when I did like some cycling, road cycling, I'm awful at it, but 3 hours on a road bike is a lot of calories burnt. And if you then just have literally an espresso and a piece of chocolate cake at the cafe, that's probably like a tenth of what you've burnt in that ride. Even if you've like been a bit naughty and had a cake, like it hasn't even like it's evaporated in terms of the amount of calories you've burnt, because it's for such a long duration and such a long distance that you're doing. Like 100k cycle ride is a shitload of calories, but if you don't put those back in, that's a big dent in your week. That's like a whole day's worth of food for you that you've missed out on. And even then, like loads of endurance people will tend to be, they're going to be on, like, if they're really good at it, they're going to be on the lighter side, going to be on the leaner, wirier side. And a lot of them tend to not eat a lot and don't have a big appetite. So it then really compounds. And it really is a case of being very conscious that you have got a ridiculous calorie burn. You need to try and put that back, either by food choices being less filling and being a bit diligent around calorie tracking and things like that, or you've got to manage that volume so that you're not spanking 7,000 calories every day and only eating 2.5.
Yeah.
Right. Which is the reality in with some of these types of activities. Like if you're doing a couple of hours in the gym or an hour session in the gym 4 times a week, pretty hard to you can underfuel that with the food, but not to the same degree in terms of calories in, calories out.
No.
So yeah, just a bit of light and shade around that, I think, just to be clear that I'm not saying it's not. There are some circumstances where it's easier than others, and those tend to be around endurance. Yeah. And the mindset of those people are, it feels like shit, I'm fine with feeling like shit. So if they're not well fueled, they just kind of like, it's almost a badge of honor, they feel like shit. But you feel a lot better when you've got fueling, guys. So that's kind of the take home from that.
That's it, yeah.
Right. Anything else, Josh?
No, that's all. I was kind of could hark back to the grinding gears section.
Yeah, go on. Let's get finish off with we'll finish off with one more grind my gears.
It's more related to training than anything else. Because anytime I get questions about should I feel this in my back or I felt that in my back, is that a bad thing? And it's irritating. Like if you're doing a deadlift or an RDL or any kind of hinging moment, you're going to feel your back to some extent, and it's not a bad thing because you have 40 odd muscles in your back that can adapt and get stronger, and so can your discs as well. They can adapt over time. So it's not like I take Jane, who is 40 odds and she's never done strength training before, I'm going to give you a Atlas stone to fuck around with, and it's like, no, I need to.
Go on, Jane.
Go on, Jane. I need to teach you how to approach this properly, and it's a gradual, progressive overload to then getting to the stone, and it's because I like doing zerches and things like that, whether that's squats or ZDLs, where you're picking. It's like a Romanian deadlift, but you're hinged all the way over and you're picking up with the crooks of your elbows. To a general PT or practitioner, you look at that thinking that's terrible for you, whereas it's a really effective way of training your spinal erectors. It's with all these things, I try and relate it to real life situations, because it's very rare that you're going to be picking up a barbell or a sandbag or a stone that's been designed and calibrated in a particular way. You're going to be more often picking up, if you have kids, picking up a kid, or maybe your dog, or shopping, or anything like that. And you're not going to be in a perfect position. So why not train to be in those imperfect positions when you go to the gym? And like with sugar not being a bad food, it's like the poison's in the dose, or the devil's in the dose. It's the same thing with this. You don't go straight in cold or completely novice with these movements. You work your way up to something that is challenging, and you might get a little bit hurt along the way, but it's just the nature of doing things that are active, and you can do that same sort. You can get hurt by just going for a walk in the woods or something like that, where something slips out from underneath you and you twin your back, or you do something very innocuous and you pick something light off the floor and then your back spasms or anything like that. So it's not like deadlifts or zercher lifts or anything of that ilk are inherently bad for you. You just might not be prepared for it, and it kind of should hopefully steer you away from. I like the names that the guys who are against this movement, the glass back agenda. So basically, the majority of the time drawing from studies, which are valid studies, but Stuart McGill's like one of the big ones that they kind of butt heads with, where a lot of the studies were done on pig spines, and dead pig spines at that, and putting them in extreme positions, and then obviously they're going to break. But you can't necessarily train a pig, but you can train a human. But you can't really do the same experiments on a living human spine. You have to use a dead human spine.
I don't remember the last time I saw a pig walking on its hind legs either, but that's...
No, exactly. So yeah, that was my last point, is I try with particularly the population I work with, they're shit scared about doing anything like that, because I've had back issues from training and things like that, and it's debilitating, and it's very taps your motivation away. But unfortunately it's part of the journey, and it may flare up.
You better remember, guys, Josh and I are pushing different levels to most of you.
Yeah.
That's not a brag. Sorry, that was meant to sound like a brag, but not many people listening to this are doing strongman competitions or like CrossFit. You push yourself really hard, and it's just you and I. It's a risk that we're willing to take. We know a little bit more what we're doing, what to expect. Yeah, but most people, the people that you're describing as your clients, aren't in that kind of. They don't have those goals with it.
Yeah, and it and it just kind of dispels quite a lot of crap that is around it, because you might wonder, is my physio or chiropractor or osteopath just trying to take money off me every 8 weeks as I go and see them? And then
I always ask the question, does your physio lift? And
and that's like going to see Joe at Valkyrie. He's absolutely fantastic, and because I've gone to him with a back issue and then also with a shoulder issue. He finds out what it is, diagnoses it, and then works on the area, which is often very painful. But
I'm gonna tell you, Joe, if you're listening, I'm gonna tell this story. I'm not gonna ask your permission. I don't know the names anyway. He's talking about maybe considering later down the line having like a little team of physios.
Yeah, I remember him saying.
And he's like, I was talking to this one lady, and she couldn't tell me the difference between a Bulgarian split squat and a split squat. So I was like, she's not on my list of people because of that reason.
Yeah.
We always have a laugh and joke about stuff like that. I mean, same actually with my colleague Danielle at HQ. She's a runner.
Yeah.
But she's very much like sports rehab, very much into like strength training. Her husband used to be an S&C coach back in the day. Very like switched on with all of that sort of stuff. And like, again, like with Danielle, like Danielle lifts heavy. She's like small frame, but she's strong thighs and she lifts heavy. So again, she'd be someone. And she's actually written, I'm going to put it in the show notes, guys. There's a little back pain blog that she's written, like from the perspective of a sports therapist, and she's got some like common complaints that she sees in, and then like some do's and don'ts, and like some points where actually you do need to stop. And like and Joe said this to me the other day as well about my back. He was like, if you ever get any like pain down the side of your leg, that's a sign that something's not quite right, and you should go get it checked out. It might be benign.
Yeah.
But that's the time, if you're getting like shooting pains down the side of your leg, then that's a little bit neural, and maybe that's something to go and just have checked out a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah.
But that kind of like, if it feels like, if your back feels like you've spent a long day in the garden, that's all right. Because again, I think in that population you describe, it's almost a badge of honor. Oh, I did a lot of gardening, so my back's pumped up.
Yeah.
Same as if you lifted, like that's the same sensation. Same as if you do a shitload of squats and lunges and you're really sore the next day.
Yes.
That's muscular soreness. If your back's really sore the next day in that same way, it's a muscle. If they're shooting pains and stuff, that's not right. And I think it's some helpful advice. I'll put Daniel's blog in the show notes because it's a good one to read. It's nice and short. It's got some key points in there that are really good to take out. So I'll put that in there. Josh.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be good.
Cool. Let's wrap it there. I need a drink because you can hear it sounding horrible. I've always wanted to be Kelly Jones in the Stereophonics. I might get it. Right. So yeah, let's leave it there. Where can people find you on the internet, Josh?
Yeah, on Instagram at joshweabout90.
Wicked. And you can find me at Feed Flexibility, feedflexibility.co.uk. If you've got a question for the podcast, email me, tim@feedflexibility.co.uk.